Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Welcome back to another Shabbat program tonight. We're happy to see you. Few announcements before we begin. A reminder that next week there will be no Shabbat program on YouTube. You can certainly watch the over 50 that we've made since this pandemic began. Everything is left on YouTube. When we return on Friday night, April 30th, our guest will be Louisa Grieve, the Director of Global Advocacy for the Uyghur Human Rights Project. She'll tell us more about that important issue. Another very, very fun announcement, May 15th, that's a Saturday night at 7 p.m., we're having our virtual trivia night. This is an opportunity for our members and our non-members to show their support for our congregation, because every non-member who attends, and it's a totally free event, will have in their name $100 donated due to a challenge grant. So we hope you'll take the opportunity to help us out just with your presence. If you're a member, there's also no charge, of course. It's going to be a lot of fun. But every non-member, of course, that you manage to bring with you virtually over Zoom will earn that same $100. So this is a great way to support our congregation by doing nothing but having fun. Look for more information at birminghamtemple.com. There you can also register. All of these announcements now behind us. Let's welcome Shabbat with the lighting of our candles.
Baruch haor ba'olam, Baruch haor ba'adam, Baruch haor b'shalom, b'shalom, Baruch haor, Baruch haor, b'Shabbat.
With the onset of this Shabbat, we commit ourselves to nurture the plants and animals, the elements, the womb of sea and soil. We offer ourselves, our ability to create, our potential to stimulate the innovative energies of others and of ourselves for the benefit of all the world. Let us contemplate the significance of life on this planet, of the wonders of being alive, of being human. May our human spirit open the paths of ingenuity, of healing and wonder, of contemplation. For Shabbat is here. Shabbat is here.
שוב העדר נוהר במבואות הכפר ועולה האבק משבילי עפר וההק עוצמת ענבלים מלווה את משך הצללים ערב בא, ערב בא.
A few years ago, I wrote this reinterpretation of Psalm 104, one of my favorite compositions of the entire Hebrew Bible. You can find it in Here Is Our Light, a compilation of readings for our movement. When we peer at the sky, it looks as if it were spread like a tent cloth. Below it the clouds, chariot-like, move on the wings of the wind. Before us we find mountains that rose, valleys that sank, and waters that once covered the earth like a garment. Waters rush forth in torrents. They flow between the hills, giving drink to all the wild beasts, while above them the birds sing among the branches. The earth is sated, Now grass can grow for grazing, while humans work the land, making wines that gladden the heart, bringing forth bread from the earth. The moon and the sun mark our days and our nights. Circadian rhythms bring forth the beasts of the forest, who at night seek their prey. When the sun rises, they return to their places of rest, as humans begin their day. There is the sea, vast and wide, with its creatures beyond number, living things great and small. How many are the marvels that are found upon earth? How full is the earth with life? Neil deGrasse Tyson wrote, "We are all connected to each other biologically, to the earth chemically, to the rest of the universe atomically. There's as many atoms in a single molecule of your DNA as there are stars in the typical galaxy. We are, each of us, a little universe." Carl Sagan put it this way, "The cosmos is within us. We are made of star stuff. We are a way for the cosmos to know itself." Once again, happy Earth Day, everyone, coming up later this week. Our guest tonight is Emily Duthin. She is a professional geologist with 18 years of experience in environmental consulting and remediating contaminated soil and groundwater. Emily is also an ardent activist for reversing climate change. She serves as board president of the North Oakland Headwaters Land Conservancy, and she is the founder of the Oakland County Cooperative Invasive Species Management Area. Emily holds a master's degree from Duke University and serves as adjunct professor at the University of Detroit, where she teaches courses on environmental science. In her free time, she engages with the environment, enjoying gardening with native plants, hiking, and stewarding natural areas. Please enjoy this conversation that she and I held earlier today. Emily Duthin, thank you so very much for joining us. I want to doubly thank you, because what people may not realize is that their rabbi goofed up something with the computer or the recording, and you were gracious enough to do this all over again. And I know you do it a lot, but you shouldn't have to do it twice for us. And you have my gratitude for your availability for this.
Not a problem. Thank you for inviting me.
All right. So hopefully this one will record well. So let's get right into it. Where are we with the issue of greenhouse gases, human impact right now?
Well, there are several greenhouse gases that we're focused on. Of course, the one foremost on everybody's mind is carbon dioxide, which is a main greenhouse gas. That comes from burning fossil fuels, coal, oil, natural gas, car emissions, a lot of other things. Another important greenhouse gas is methane gas. That comes from natural gas and a lot of land use patterns that we have. It is a much more powerful, 30 times more powerful greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. It accentuates the greenhouse gas effect much more powerfully than carbon dioxide does. But the good news is that it comes out of the atmosphere much, much faster, within a decade, 12 years or so, whereas carbon dioxide stays in the atmosphere for centuries. And so any change we make in methane can have an impact very quickly.
But does that mean it doesn't affect the environment quite as much?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Methane, the methane expulsions, is it less of a threat, or you're just saying it's something we could turn around much more quickly?
There are several greenhouse gases,
right?
And some of them we need to reduce our emissions of all of these greenhouse gases. In some cases, it will take a long time for our efforts to have an impact. In other cases, for other gases, we will see an impact of our hard work much sooner.
Okay, thank you for that. I remember being confused about that when we spoke the first time. Moving on to what the impact is of the greenhouse gases now. What are the signs of this that are apparent that we're experiencing?
Well, it was really amazing to me when I first realized that puny humans really can impact something as big as the Earth's atmosphere. We know that the concentration of greenhouse gases is increasing as a result of human activity since the Industrial Revolution. The average global temperature has increased 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit in the past 130 years. And we know this by direct measurements and by measuring the concentration of carbon dioxide in little bubbles that have been trapped in ice cores in the Antarctic and in Greenland. So this really is making a difference. 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit on an average doesn't sound like much, but you have to realize that during the last ice age, the temperature was only 5 degrees colder Fahrenheit than it is today. So that gives you an indication of how much of an impact a small change in temperature can make. The climate is changing. The US Department of Agriculture has found that horticultural zones are moving northward. If you look at the back of seed packets that you get at the grocery store for basil for planting in your garden, you'll find a little map of the United States telling you when to plant your seeds. Those are the horticultural zones. And those zones have moved north in the past few decades. Michigan used to be in horticultural zone 5. We're now in horticultural zone 6. And that's just since 1990. So our climate is becoming more like the climate of Tennessee. And there's a graphic that illustrates this. So the climate has always changed, but the rate of change is faster than ever. Species, plant and animal species, are not able to move and adapt that quickly. So we have increased wildfires, increased extreme weather events, temperature extremes, floods, droughts. Our climate is becoming much more unstable as a result of this rapid change in climate. We even saw that this winter when, paradoxically, we have a cold snap in Texas from warming in the Arctic, which destabilized the jet stream and brought cold weather down to Texas, while the Arctic is seeing record high temperatures in the winter.
You had mentioned when we had our first time together, its effect on the ice sheets. You mentioned, I recall you talking about the Arctic and also Greenland and so forth. And you shared some pictures with me that I can put up for you as well.
Yes, the climate, we've talked about the average change in global temperature, but it is not the same throughout the world. The climate is warming faster at the poles than at the equator. And so a lot of impacts, direct impacts of climate change are happening at the polar regions. There are a lot of feedback loops that happen that make climate change accelerate faster and faster and faster until we reach a tipping point that we will be unable to control. For example, if you have a little puddle of meltwater on top of the ice sheet, say in Greenland, or the floating ice at the North Pole, if a little puddle of meltwater forms, we know that this dark water, we know this from our experience in Michigan, the darkness of the surface absorbs solar heat faster, whereas the snow will reflect the solar heat back into space. So this change in reflectiveness or albedo is a feedback loop that makes the climate warm faster and faster. Similarly, melting of the undersides of the ice shelves off of Greenland and Antarctica is undermining the floating ice shelves that are stuck to the bottom of the ocean and are basically damming or stopping the flow of the continental ice sheets into the ocean. This is another feedback loop, and if those ice sheets melt, we will have a lot of rising sea levels, and it will become very difficult to stop at that point.
That's one of the things people don't really think about, is they've sort of been acclimated, I guess I should say, to the idea that, you know, this is creating trapping heat, but they don't think about the effect that it has on reflectivity and other kinds of, as you say, feedback loops. We did jump in last time to what we can do, and I know people have heard a lot of this kind of stuff, but you had some outstanding suggestions for ways that each of us can address this, and it really can be a communal and an individual effort.
The key here is to keep the average temperature from increasing beyond 2.5 or beyond 4 degrees Fahrenheit overall globally. The Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change currently is forecasting a temperature rise of 2.5 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit over this century. Remember, we're already 1.5 degrees there. And they conclude it's critical to keep it to less than 4 degrees Fahrenheit to avoid approaching these tipping points. It's kind of like, these tipping points are critical. It's kind of like if you ride a scooter down the hill, at first you can stop, but then the scooter goes faster and faster until you get to the point where your only hope is to hang on and pray for the best, because you can't stop. You're beyond the tipping point, and you've got, in that case, in that analogy, runaway speed going downhill. Same thing will happen with climate change. If we go beyond about 4 degrees Fahrenheit, it's going to be impossible to stop, and we're going to have massive changes to the world that we don't want to go to. So there's a lot of things that we can do. If it's man-made, we can fix it. We've cut global air pollution before with acid rain and other problems. We can do it again. I don't want to hear, I'm relieved that it's not something like sunspots or changes in the Earth's rotation, because I don't control that. But I do control how much I drive. I do control what I eat. President Biden has rejoined the Paris Accord. He's planning to end subsidies for hydrocarbon extraction. All this is good stuff. We can conserve energy. We can generate electricity with renewables, and we can encourage land use that sequesters greenhouse gases. For example, you can change your incandescent light bulbs to LEDs. That uses less energy, they last longer, and they're even better than those compact fluorescent light bulbs. Turning off lights and appliances when not in use. Something as simple as lowering the temperature of your hot water heater to 120 degrees and installing low flow shower heads and using shorter showers, that can save 1,000 pounds of carbon dioxide emissions per year. Using fans instead of electricity, getting electricity from clean sources, driving less. The average car generates 5 tons of CO2 per year. So every time you carpool or take public transportation or bike, you're reducing your emissions of CO2. Avoiding unnecessary braking and acceleration using cruise control. All this can lead to a 40% savings in fuel, which is also a reduction in greenhouse gases. Shopping, of course, buying less stuff, buying recycled or reusable things, using a reusable bag. Using a laptop instead of a desktop computer uses electricity. It's just as good. Using Energy Star appliances saves you money and reduces your carbon footprint. Something as simple as washing clothes in cold water, switching to 2 loads per week to cold water will save 500 pounds of carbon dioxide emissions per year. And finally, eating low on the food chain. Livestock is responsible for 15% of man-made global greenhouse gases. both in terms of feed production, processing the meat, and so on. Every day that you eat vegan, you save 8 pounds of CO2 emissions per day. So buying local, organic, buying in bulk, reducing food waste, all this reduces your carbon footprint. And finally, reducing your air travel, because that, for people who fly a lot, that's often the biggest source of greenhouse gases. Purchasing carbon offsets is helpful. Often that involves helping an organization to plant trees elsewhere and preserving land. I'm also president of the North Oakland Headwaters Land Conservancy. We protect 1,500 acres locally. All this sequesters carbon dioxide and protects these lands, keeps them from emitting carbon, becoming carbon emissions. It provides other environmental benefits as well, but that's a talk for another day. And finally, getting politically active. Make sure you vote. Write to your representatives. There are issues currently in front of the legislators, both locally in Michigan and at the national level. There's a bill in front of the Michigan legislature to support renewable energy by removing the limits on rooftop solar generation. Also a bill to support recycling. And I sent you links for more information about both of these. Please write to your local representatives in Lansing and tell them to support these bills for many reasons, including reducing our impact on climate change. At the federal level, a lot of the stimulus package is addressing, or the infrastructure package is addressing requirements such as requiring automakers to produce pollution-free cars and trucks and buses, opposing construction of fossil fuel infrastructure, including pipelines. One of the main reasons why people are concerned about the Line 5 and some of these other natural gas pipelines is it locks us into using and emitting methane, which, as I said, is a very powerful greenhouse gas. It's emitted from small leaks along these pipelines and from the use of these fossil fuels. We don't want to be building more fossil fuel infrastructure. We want to be reducing it. And we can thank President Biden for acting on climate and asking him to do more.
This is very, very, very important information, and I'm so glad that you were willing to come back on very short notice to represent it due to whatever human or computer error, I won't cop to which one it was because I don't know, caused my problem here on my laptop, which I use, and I drive a Prius. I know that's just a small part of the carbon footprint. This is in honor of Earth Day, which is next week, and I want to wish you a happy Earth Day. Certainly, few are doing as much as you are to protect the Earth, and I very much, I know that we all appreciate your activism and your education with us tonight. Thanks so much once again, Emily. And
thank you for inviting me.
Look forward to see you in person. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Once again, thank you to Emily Duthin. This past week is the week in which Israelis have observed their Memorial Day and celebrated, along with many Jewish communities throughout the entire world, Yom HaAtzmaut, Independence Day. As a result, our minds turn toward that area of the world, toward Israel, and hopes for peace. Secular Israeli poet Yehuda Amichai wrote this poem. An Arab shepherd is searching for his goat on Mount Zion, and on the opposite hill I am searching for my little boy. An Arab shepherd, a Jewish father, both in their temporary failure. Our two voices meet above the Sultan's pool in the valley between us, neither of us wanting the boy or the goat to get caught in the wheels of the Chad Gadya machine. Afterward, we found them among the bushes, and our voices came back inside us, laughing and crying. Searching for a goat or for a child has always been the beginning of a new religion in these mountains. We continue with Na'aseh Shalom. May we make peace. In this community where we find strength and common purpose, we turn our minds and hearts toward all those who need our love and support, those who are ill, those who suffer pain of body or spirit, those who are lonely, those who have been wronged. Tonight, our well wishes are extended to these members of our community and to their loved ones, to Rob Lasker, Brina Broder, Ruth Moltz, Joe Gaden, Julie Eliason, Karen Tremper Harris, Myron Tink, and Rabbi Peter Schweitzer. May all who suffer know that they are not alone. May they be healed quickly. May they experience a refuah shlema, a complete recovery, the renewal of their bodies and the renewal of their spirits. Our thoughts turn to those who are no longer with us, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every people and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We recall now our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have taken into our hearts with our own. Tonight, our community continues to mourn the loss of our dear friend, our member, our teacher, our guide, Marilyn Rowans, Zichra Livracha, of blessed memory. We in our community owe so much to this beloved woman. We will continue to carry her wisdom in the form of the wonderful stick figure comics that she made for so many years in our newsletter. They continue to teach us still. To the memory of Marilyn, we add these yahrzeits that we observe on this Shabbat: Dorothy Bluestein, Sheldon Bobrow, Rosalie Bieber Brown, Fanny Calfin, Ben Gaber, Morris Gaden, Joseph Morris, Rita Muroff, Robert David Seifer, Lydia Bandy Karnas Slachter, Ben Stowicki, Samuel Sugarman, Andre Zador, and Stanley Zimmer. Yehi zichram livracha, may memories of each of these beloved people provide some source of comfort for those who must now face life in their absence. That's our Shabbat program for tonight. Remember, we'll be off next week, back again on the 30th. Don't forget to go to birminghamtemple.com and register for our trivia night, May 15th at 7 p.m. Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and happy Earth Day.
הנה מה טוב ומה נעים שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים שבת אחים גם יחד. Behold how good it is when people dwell together, living as one people, hand in hand. What keeps us safe and strong is that we have each other, one human family across the land. Hine ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad.